Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So it's Saturday. I have nothing to do. Actually, I have things to do and I will be doing those things, but somewhat buzzed. And I thought to myself, let's do a 420. In 2020, there's going to be a Democratic Civil War. And yes, blaze one if you got one. Blaze what if you got one. 2020 is going to be a Democratic Civil War. Now, if who I think is going to win, if the left wins, the real left, then certain things needs to take place to be successful. I don't mean successful purely in a political sense. I'm making the point that politics today has completely and become undetached from the people who they're supposed to represent. Meaning, we've reached somewhat of a dangerous place where people don't believe the political apparatus deals with their needs. How do you end up with the two most hated candidates on the ballot? That's interesting. And do you honestly believe that the country itself wanted either of those two people to be in office? You had a small faction, but most of the country didn't. It didn't matter. The political system itself failed to express what the people actually wanted in regards to a person in that office. That's a problem. In the healthcare debate, we have this weird issue in our politics and in our governance, where what's being debated and what they're talking about is being done purely along ideological lines. Now, this is fascinating to me. It's amazing that this is normal, but they consider this to be normal. This particular person has a particular ideological view of the world. Good job. Good for you. The next guy, he also has one. They're shades of difference, but for the most part, they're similar. And these two people with their particular ideologies quibble and bash heads. And they bash their heads over policy and things that they want as laws in this country. Where's the reality in all this? Where's the reality? Isn't that a fair question? If you're using your ideology, meaning this strict core way of seeing the world, and that guy's using an ideology, how do I know if your ideology is lining up with real reality? I am making the point that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, the ideologies these guys follow, is completely and utterly detached from the world in which they live. It's a fascinating thing when you see that. The healthcare debate exposes that wholesale. The Obama administration, the Democratic Party, their ideology is still market-driven solution. Came up with a healthcare system and still left millions of people off the rolls. Still, overwhelmingly, the most expensive in the world, in spades, by like 3 times. Still allowed drug companies to pull massive amounts of profits without the Medicare being able to negotiate. Still allowed companies, insurance companies, to be a part of the process, allowing their CEOs to get millions and millions of dollars at the expense of people who need medical care. That was his ideology, coming up with a healthcare system. It was a right-wing system, but still, I'm just making a point that this was a particular ideological choice to come up with an inadequate system for the United States in healthcare. That's not fascinating? That's not fascinating? It's like, you have an issue. Okay, how do we solve that issue? My ideology says this. This is the box that I've created for myself that I need to work through. My limited ideology, my limited imagination, my ideology says this is the best case solution for healthcare in America. Republicans, their ideology hates anything that's gonna take money out of the people who are paying them. So they're against it, right up wholesale. They're against it. Now, they finally got the opportunity to show what they can do. Show us the Republican plan. What do you stand for? Donald Trump said everybody was going to have health care. Now you, Mr. Republican, you have the opportunity to get rid of Obamacare. You said it was slavery. So what are you going to do? We're essentially going to knock 15 more million people off the rolls for health care, and we're going to increase the prices to everybody. Wait a minute, that doesn't sound like a solution to health care. My ideology says it's the best we can do. The United States is the richest country on the planet. You have countries abroad, nowhere near the wealth of America, and is able to provide health care for each and every citizen in that particular country. We're dying earlier because we're not having health care. We spend, again, like 4 times as much as every other nation. And our death rates, our mortality rate is higher. As the expense of healthcare costs went up, our mortality rates got worse. The other countries abroad that had healthcare, their stayed the same. This is an amazing thing, right? We live in a physical matter reality. Physical matter reality. Whatever you want to think in regards to what reality is, ultimately, it's a physical matter reality to which we exist. That is where the continuity of our consciousness, our shared consciousness, that's where we bump around in that sense. If that's the case, then the ideas and the things that take place is going to have to take into account the natural world, because we're in a natural world. We're on a planet, a finite planet, that has cycles, planetary cycles, meaning, you know, winter, summer, winter, spring, fall, all these things just make up a planet and a lifestyle. We have materials on this particular planet, and we have us. All of those systems need something in order to persist the systems to keep this planet alive and thriving. We ourselves are also part of nature, physical matter reality. There's certain things that we need for ourselves to be a fulfilled human being, to be your optimum, to be your best. Food, clothing, can't get out, I'm sorry, shelter, a sense of fulfillment, water. Those are the things you need. When you don't have those things, you exhibit aberrant behavior. It's not just you, it's pretty much anybody. And how people experience those things and the behavior that those people take is going to be somewhat dependent upon the person and how that person is made up. Some people act out. Some people can deal with it a little bit better. But what does it look like in a society where 50% of the people don't have their needs met? They're in lack. I suspect you're going to get a society to look like ours. Then you have this other flip side to it, where if the person gets too much because of the way the system is set up, he becomes somewhat of, I don't want to say a psycho, but there is a mental illness associated with the person who has all that money and still just wants more. I would say that's some kind of illness. There needs to be a death to ideology. Long live ideology. And I'm trying to make a point. A death to abstract ideologies. And recognize that we do live in a physical matter reality. Again, whatever you want to think about in regards to what is reality, that's fine. That's an esoteric concept. That doesn't fit into governance. We're dealing with what we know, what we can understand, what we can place our hands on, and what, at the very least, we ourselves consider to be, to some degree, objective reality. Scientists, technicians, people who produce things, people who do shit, people who are engaged in a particular topic. If you were going to do something, shouldn't you actually do research? Shouldn't you get data and information? Shouldn't you try to accrue some of the best people you can think of to give you ideas on how to pull something off? Meaning, is it not weird that the question is answered by ideology as opposed to the question being answered by observing real world things? How are they doing it abroad in other countries? Is there a way we could do it in America that makes it better? Is there an American way for single payer healthcare? What would that American way be? How will we pull that American way off? Why is that not the spot? You're pulling in scientists. You're pulling in people who are experts in number crunching, who's looking at these places around the globe, trying to figure out how they pull this off and how they keep costs down. Ideology has nothing to do with it. That's the point I'm getting at. This is everything to do with data, scientific analysis, engineering, people who know shit. I'm going to build a house. Okay, well, my ideology says that you need to do this. I don't give a shit about your ideology. I want to be able to build a house, and I want that house to be able to survive. The house is going to function on physical principles in the same way that anything that you're talking about right here in regards to legislation is going to function on certain principles. Meaning, if your goal is to cover everybody in the country, then the people who are the smartest kids in the room, they're looking at situations in order to figure out how to get everybody covered. It's not an ideological issue at that point. It's a technical issue. That's what I'm getting at. Now, you may say this is some kind of ideology based in, this technical analysis of a particular problem. Fair enough. Like I said, death to ideology, long live ideology. You can't get away from it. But shouldn't that ideology be based on real things, the real world, physical things, real systems? Not those things. Meaning they just make shit up. This is our idea for it. I'm not looking for your idea, dude. How do you do it? What's the technical way to pull it off? That's all I'm getting at. This ideology thing is weird to me. If the progressive gets in office, a lefty, death to ideology. Death to ideology. When issues come up, don't just arbitrarily move to the left or arbitrarily move anywhere. What is the technical way of dealing with the problem? How do you provide health care for each and every person in the country? How do you provide free college for each and every person in the country? Come up with an answer. Come up with a real answer. None of this bullshitting around. How do you instill more worker co-ops in a particular society? I'm making the point that stop using ideology as an excuse to do things. Stop using ideology as the lens that you use to figure out what you can pull it off. Think about real systems. I give you a perfect example. Capitalism itself. It's an ideology. It's a complete ideology. Maximize my profit, get more. The capitalistic model in no way pays attention to the real world environment. Meaning, you've destabilized the environment based upon the capitalistic impulse to get more. In this case, oil. In this case, animal, what is it called? Animal, I can't think of the name for it. Essentially, farm industry. The farm industry. The things they do for animals, for cattle. It damages the environment. Those things aren't on the table. Those things aren't even paid attention to. And yet, do you have a real environment that those things are actually adversely affecting, which is going to adversely affect all of us? Down to false ideologies. Down to false ideologies. If you're going to look at it, if you're going to honestly look at it, you kind of have to pay attention to this thing of what are real things? What are real things? A person is a real thing. If you want to do something that tangibly and beneficially affects a particular society, focus on making that society a better place. You make that society a better place by allowing those people to be more free and more secure. Whether that's jobs, whether that's universal basic income, whether it's college, meaning free education. I'm saying allow these people to be in a particular society that allows them to be free, allows them to be themselves, allows them to pursue their life in the way they want to pursue their life without the heartache, believing they're going to go broke and poor and die. Deal with their needs. You deal with their needs, you're going to get a better society. This is what I'm getting at when I'm saying progressives and lefties. If you have the opportunity to do something in office, do something substantial. Do something substantial. And don't use false ideologies to do it. So yes, I'm for single payer because I know single payer is better in regards to covering everybody. And it's cheaper. Yes, I am for free college. I think it pays in spades with the people who are coming back. That's a beneficial thing for our particular country. So yes, it's a quid pro quo in that sense. That kid goes to college, that kid's coming back. He's going to do something. You're rolling the dice. Just like you roll the dice on everybody else. You're going to get winners, and you're going to get people who don't necessarily continue to go to college. So what? We pay up for education up to high school and college for it. Just at college. Yes, all drugs legal. Yes, federal jobs guarantee. I'm for these things because I know these things will make a society a better place. You can't restrain drug use. You're just going to create criminals, which is going to fill up jails. That doesn't necessarily help that particular individual who's in that situation. And locking somebody up for making a personal choice is a little fucked up. Hey, look, I can go on, and those things are detours. I'm just making the point that don't live in false ideology. Don't live in a false ideology. If the ideology doesn't represent real things in it, doesn't honestly take real things into account, then it's a false ideology. If they're going to do things based upon ideology other than actual data and information used to make a choice about it, then it's their ideology. Down with false ideologies. I'll leave it at that. Alright guys, if you enjoyed the content, feel free to share, rate, subscribe. I'm sorry. It's funny. It emptied out of my mind all at once. Feel to share, rate, subscribe. You can always support the work through PayPal or Patreon. Thank you.